Welcome everyone who's watching us. I'm Karen, an international sports psychologist. I worked in Malaysia for a while. That's how I met this gentleman. And I heard he's now kind of in my hood. He's moved to Germany. So I just wanted to, thanks for taking your time and talking to me about your experience as an athlete in Malaysia, in Germany. And yeah, so how about Nauraj, you just kind of tell me a little bit about yourself and our audience, who you are. And you just introduce yourself and let us know who you are.
Definitely. I'm Nauraj Singh Randawa. I'm from Malaysia. I'm a national athlete of Malaysia. I take part in the high jump event. I've been with the national team of Malaysia since 2008. So yeah, I started off as a junior athlete, made my way up all the way, and had the honors of competing at the 2016 Rio Olympics for Malaysia. And yeah, I think that's a good summary of who I am.
Awesome. So other than Rio, any other highlights in your sporting career?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I've won 3 gold medals in the Southeast Asian Games, 1 silver over the span of the last 10 years. I've participated twice at the Commonwealth Games, twice at the Asian Games, made the finals, finished in top 6 positions. I qualified on merit to the World Championships in London 2017. That was also the other honor that I had after the Olympics, because that qualification required a 2:30, which is my personal best and the national record. So yeah, it was the World Championships and the Olympic Games as well.
Awesome. Definitely quite a successful career you've had and still going. What are your goals for the upcoming years? What's your plan?
Well, right now, with Corona around, it's so difficult to we're going through complete uncertain times. Like I have made an awesome plan for last year, and all of a sudden in March, boom, Corona came. God knows how long it would have lasted. But yeah, it lasted until now actually.
So yeah,
Still, God knows
still
so when.
ongoing.
Yeah, as far as plans are concerned, I think the biggest takeaway from this whole experience is that I think I've been much of a rigid person in terms of plans. Like I draw plans and they gotta go exactly the way it is. And I think Corona was a lesson for me as well that hey, plan is just a guide for you to follow, and things happen, things come up along the way, and how you trying to navigate through that. So I think the plan for the years to come is to keep giving my best, and go by what we know is for certain. Like the Olympics, we know right now that's happening for sure. And next year probably the Commonwealth Games. So I'm also aiming for that. I mean, I've participated twice in the Commonwealth Games, but I haven't finished or come off it without a medal yet. So that's definitely in my my goal list that I want to chase. And also Asian Games next year. So,
So while I know this was not a question I kind of sent you, but it's kind of key Corona, as you mentioned. How did you cope with it? How, as you said, it kind of threw everything out of the way and out of the plan, everything we had as athletes or sports psychs or coaches, as you said, we kind of all have certain roadmaps that we go along, but COVID has thrown that definitely all out of the way and put a lot of things into perspective. How did you cope with all these uncertain times? How did you get through it?
To be honest, for a long time, I have been ignoring it, not looking at like how much it has impacted normal life. Just I think it's also the athlete's mindset of what can you do about it? Just focus on what you can do, but not looking at the sides. Like a lot of stuff were taken away, which also, kind of caused a lot of unhappiness. And all of a sudden you're wondering, why am I feeling this way? Why am I not, so happy with stuff and whatnot? It's because I was being too focused on moving forward instead of looking at what's around. I think maybe in a way it was also time to slow down, to take it as it is, to look at the reality of what is happening. So I really had to pause for a second and look around me, and I think that was also a process of just understanding and accepting what's happening around, and going step by step, like first you have strict lockdowns, completely no activities, and then you have slightly freedom to do a little bit, and then cases go up, you're back to lockdown again. So I think the way I've been coping with it is to just take the small steps every time, So,
All right. So, as you mentioned quite a few success stories, what are some of the key factors that you feel that have helped you be successful?
Oh, I think there's so many key factors. A huge part of it is support. The support system, which includes not only me myself, but my coach, family, if you work with a sports psychologist, they come into play as well. And your federation, your association. I think what all this does is it puts you in a position where you feel really safe, where I feel really safe and most importantly happy. So if I could connect my successes, it had a lot to do with my well-being of being happy as well. So I think that's key.
All right. So how much do you think your sport of high jump is linked to the mental part of game? How important is the mental side, the sports psych side? Because you did mention working with a sports psychologist. How much of an impact, or how much does it contribute towards your training, your competition, your success?
Huge. I think in a technical perspective, a lot. I've spoken to many jumpers as well around the world, those who have performed really high, asking them, what is the difference of jumping 230 versus 227, a height of 227? And it's more like 3 centimeters, actually, it's that much. And we could say that, every centimeter counts. Sure, it does, but it also has to do a lot what goes on mentally, Look at it. Does the height of the bar make you nervous? Let the bar go higher. Does that make you feel nervous? Does that make you feel scared? Like, I have jumped heights of 215, 210 with this much of space to spare, 20 centimeters to spare, or something like this. But as soon as the bar comes up to 25, and then things start changing, in a technical perspective point of view, I start getting more tense, more anxious, more nervous, and then the run up just gets in the way. So I think it has a lot to do with the mental approach into in high jump, definitely.
Okay. So what would be one of your key mental tools that you use to get through some of, as you said, the anxious part of, because the bar has gone a little higher, even though at a lower height you can do it, but now physically you're seeing it's up there.
Yeah. So the key mental tools is definitely visualizations and self-talk, affirmations to yourself. Like, this really comes to play a lot, especially when I'm in competition. It's definitely a battle of me against the bar, me against myself, instead of the competitors around me. And while I'm in there, my coach, sure, he's pointing out my technical aspects of how I can improve and whatnot. And sure, a bit of feedback from him can give me some motivation as well. But it is very much of what I say to myself and how I perceive the bar that is in front of me. Some preparations, like I do drills in training, setting the bar up at really high, like a 235 or 236, and just to get a look of it, it kind of prepares you in a way that you know what it looks like. So, and when it comes down to this day in competition, it's not a whole new thing to you. That, as well as visualizing yourself, jumping over the bar, taking every step along the way, either watching myself through a visualization or being in myself through a visualization, and being really specific with it, to the specs. Sometimes I have specific visualizations for specific heights. So that kind of prepares me as well. And I think we all, on a certain level, deal with self-doubts, especially they can come at any time. And I think it's normal to have them. So this is where the self-talk and the affirmations come into play, for me as well, where to stop, spot, and swap a negative thought or a doubt, as soon as it arises, I counter it with something positive, and to not follow on through with it or let it be the feeling that I feel, but to choose right away to bring up my mantra or whatever, which is I'm more than I appear to be, or something like this. I can, I must, I will, so on and so forth. So yeah.
Do you think doubt is necessarily a bad thing to have? That self-doubt?
I think if it's too much, it's bad. Too much of anything is bad. Same goes with nervousness, like a certain amount of nervousness, a certain amount of fear, a certain amount of doubt is necessary. I mean, we are humans after all. We if we try to eliminate all of this, we are trying to be perfect, but that's not who we are. We are humans, we are imperfect. And it has to do with also accepting that and moving day to day on a day-to-day basis, and accepting that, self-doubts do come in. You just don't relate yourself to them. So that's another part of an understanding I believe that I have had to make with myself, to know who I am, where I'm coming from, what are my values, what are my beliefs. These kind of things really kind of help me or navigate me, to stay more grounded when they do come in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like self-doubt can be a positive thing at times, because like it gives you because self-doubt comes from questions that you might still have unanswered. And so these are questions, that you can use to go, okay, so the self-doubt is because I feel like I'm lacking something here. So I can use that as a question that I need to answer. I need to search on how I can gain that confidence more, so that that question disappears.
Definitely, yeah, you're right, actually.
I think a lot of it just depends on the perspective we have towards it. Like same with nerves, you can see nerves, as you said, all nerves, a little bit of nerves are good because it's those butterflies that tell you you're ready for something, that you're excited about it. But at the same time, you can go the opposite way and go, oh shit, I've got nerves. I'm terrified. I'm gonna be bad at something. Whereas you can interpret it with like, oh, it's a way my body is showing me I'm excited about this event. I'm ready for this event. So I really find a lot of things. Sometimes it's just, obviously you need to find that right level for you, but it's also the way we interpret it.
Exactly. Yeah. Same goes with fear. I think fear actually has the potential to keep you alert and sharp. In times where maybe you're a bit too chilled, and it's about finding that balance. I must say it is a challenge still, to find that balance, and I think it's key on this level, especially to know how to get to balance, to know how to be at balance, especially when you're stepping into the competition field. And that has a lot to do with the preparation that you build up into the meets. I mean, we have just the opportunity to compete then and there, and you don't want to mess it up because then it's gone.
Yeah. Do you feel that throughout your competition, so if you start at like junior level and worked your way up, that the mental game started to play more of a role, or was it equivalent, about the same? Or what are some of the other changes that you've witnessed for yourself as you progressed through your career?
Definitely a lot more. It has got more and more year by year, the more I achieved. And it comes also, from a place of dealing with more pressure and more stress and more expectations. And yeah, they can go sideways, It's been easy along the way. It's also like I speak from my experience to lose my way of why I'm doing this and who I'm doing it for. When there was a point in my career where I made the opinions and perception of people around me matter more than what I think of myself. And but I guess that was always me along the way, because I was never able to find a way to actually jump for myself. I used to jump for either my coach or my family, or I want to uplift the living of my family, or the supporters, or the country, or whatever, so on and so forth, but never truly for myself. And I've come to learn that as long as I have never learned to jump for myself, I would forever be in the prison of what will other people think if this happens, or what would other people think if that happens. And I think that changed over the years, especially also to do like with gaining recognitions and getting sponsorships, or getting fundings, programs, tiers, etc. They got upgraded along the way. Like I used to earn a couple of $100, and then you went up to 1,000, and up the ladder, and then all of a sudden you have so much to lose. So that also kind of builds a pressure onto you, versus the mindset or belief of, I do this and whatever comes with it, comes with it. So yeah, those were the lessons and the learnings, that I have gone through throughout the career. So yeah, they got more and more and more as years went by. And yeah, with social media, Instagram, and you have people, even if they are not what you think, like they're not following every move of yours, I still tend to feel that, from time to time, if I want to post something up on social media, or what would the other people think, or how would their opinions, blah, blah, blah. And what that has done is it prevented me from being myself.
Yeah.
And the truth is, I only performed well. I only did well by being myself, by embracing who I am. And it's easy to get lost in that whole.
Absolutely. And yeah, as you said, I mean, the higher you do, the better you do. There's more media, more attention on you, and so there, you feel like you need to perform, you need to be perfect. And like we said, perfection, we are not. We are humans. Humans make mistakes, and if we try to be perfect, we are adding even more pressure on ourselves to or expectations, because we want to please everyone else. And it just takes away from what it is that our job actually is. And your job is to jump over a bar and try and move that bar as high as possible. But, I mean, this is put in simple terms, but that's pretty much, we tend to make things a lot more complicated than they need to be because of all that different distraction and attraction that we have that's going on, and it's just trying to block all that out and go, okay, what is my job? My job is not to gain sponsors. My job is not to please all this. My job is to jump over that bar and make sure I'm the one that jumps the highest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think every now and then I still do need a reminder like this. Yeah, it's so easy to get lost. It's so easy, you know. I mean, as humans, we also feel like we're deserving of things, and I don't think that's entirely wrong to, you know, to want to feel deserving of things, but it also puts you on the other edge of getting disappointed with it, and if you don't meet up to your expectations, so it really is a tough game. But like you said, you know, you still have to go back to that basis of why I'm doing this, and that's where the why actually plays the huge role. Not for the motivation's sake, but for this, you know, the well-being part.
For the well-being part, but I also find that your true motivation comes from that why are you doing this? You're doing this for you. You're doing this because you love the sport, you know? And I think that is the strongest motivation. Money comes and goes. Medals, it's a medal. I mean, if it's really only about the medal, you can go down to a shop and buy the medal. There's so much more that this medal means, and it's because of the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put into this. You know, the fact that this means so much to you. It's your love, it's your passion. This is what you want to do. And because this is what you want to do, you're willing to go through the sweat, blood, and tears and the ups and downs that come with the sport. And pick yourself up when you fall, when you hurt yourself, pick yourself up and go again and go again and go again.
Yep. That's why I also think it's so important to define what the success means to yourself. Like, you know, a lot of this part of the work, I've only came to do within the last year or so, you know. Like for so long, it's been jumping for everyone else but not me. And I was forced to you know, stand in the corner and to also define what does success actually mean for me. Success does not mean the same thing to me as it means to Usain Bolt. He wants to be a legend. That's his goal, you know. I have to bring some reality as well into my vision of success. I'm not saying out there, don't dream big. Go ahead, dream big. But what is success to you and why? Why? Just keep the chain of question of why and get to the essence of it. Don't just say I want to be an Olympic champion, but why? I don't know, because you know it's the champion. You want to be the champion or something. You want to be well known or recognized, and it's because if you can set your terms for your success, I think you will be able to achieve it and feel content and happy and satisfied at the same time with your own self. Exactly. That's all that matters. That's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah. As long as you can look in the mirror and be happy with who you are, that's all that matters, you know? Whether it was first place or fourth place or whatever, as long as you know you've given it all and you're happy with your performance and you can look in the mirror and say, yep, I've done everything I can.
Yep. Exactly.
Because in the end, I mean, you cannot control the other competitors. You can only control yourself and give everything and do everything that you need to do.
Exactly. You know, even if let's say someone beats Usain Bolt in the final, it isn't because he's a loser. It just simply means because someone was better than him on that day. Yeah, it's simple as that.
Right. All right. So another thing that I loved about you is that you've, like you said, you're from Malaysia, but I also know you spent some time in Australia, and I now know that you're in Germany. How has that impacted you as a person, as an athlete, this, living and working in different cultures and with coaches from different cultures? I mean, I know at ISN you had Australians, Germans, Irish people, who knows what, in your team that supported you. How has that impacted you personally and in your sporting career?
I guess, you know, I've learned a lot over the years in comparison to if I stayed in Malaysia the entire time. The life of it was kind of always on the go, you know.
Mhm.
It was hard for me, honestly. A month in Japan straight after 2 months in Europe, back to Australia, Malaysia, the place. It's like I felt at one point I didn't realize place. Where is this? Like I live out of a suitcase so long. Um, but yeah, you know, that was the demands of my life because I had a coach in that part of the world where I was from here and competitions required me to travel all over around.
Mm.
Um, but on the other hand, having to spend that much of time around the world really, really has shown me a lot about different cultures. Um, the coaching, like the coaching perspective alone, I have I've had the I would say the privilege of training with the Russian coach at first, with a Chinese coach, with a Cuban coach, with an Australian coach, and now I'm with a German coach. You know, that's five different continents maybe. Um, but the the summary that I make out of it is that there is no one certain recipe to make an excellent athlete
Yeah.
in terms of training. It is very important. It is very important. I'm certain I have been able to, to harness all that experience and know what's best for me, what works for me, and so on. But looking at all this, going through the whole experience, there is no one single method recipe that is is right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. Yeah, okay, some stuff can really get you injured and things like this, if you do some really crazy stuff in training. But I think there is no right or wrong method. Like it also comes from that individual. A huge part comes from the individual who is executing the training and executing the competition and that amount of self-belief that that person has in himself. Um, Aside from those different areas and perspective of coaching, they were all different people as well, that I I coached with. Like the Russian guy, he was old. Um, I liked his approach very much. He was a very happy-go-lucky guy. Like you could do a bad performance and he's like, oh man, this is bad, but it's okay next time or something like this. I've trained with, like an Australian coach. You do poorly or bad like this, he walks away. You don't see him for 1 or 2 days.
Okay.
It's you can feel like you don't have the support from him in that sense of you. I think the coach and athlete relationship is very important.
Yeah.
Um, Here now in Germany, the coach is so neutral. He's like everything is as it is. It's the German style, I think. It is what it is. It is as it is. There's no smile. There's no sad face. It's just plain. And I think that approach has truly forced me to look at all my experiences and to navigate myself in certain ways, to use my experiences to depend on myself more than how I used to trust a lot in my coaches. I depended on them to not only coach me but to guide me as well through life.
Yeah.
Like all their teachings were kind of like parents, like how a parent would shape a kid, you know.
Yeah.
So in that point of view, right now, the German coach has kind of pushed me in a corner to kind of be my own man, to
Okay.
do things So yeah, that kind of part is, it was very uncomfortable at the start, but I can see why it's necessary
Mm.
now. Because at the end of the day, I need to make decisions for myself and to stand up and to man up. That's as far as different coaching cultures have been. But seeing the world, seeing different ways of living, different religions background, cultural backgrounds, seasons, for example, seeing seasons. Oh, that was a culture shock actually. But
Germany, the snow.
it's yeah, snow. It was crazy. Snow in February. Uh, uh, with snow this year, it was crazy here in Germany. Like
I mean, we had
there were
snow like in
no,
March and April. It was bloody cold.
yeah, but
This,
we had like the storm in February and like no trams. I cycle on the bike to training every day, and I couldn't take my bike. It was too icy, and I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, there's no medium of transport to training at the moment, and it was, yeah, that was a huge culture shock to me. Um, but aside from them, yeah, it's also meeting the people, The only thing that I can say is different is the languages
yeah. Okay.
and the scenery and the personalities trait. But otherwise, I think everyone everywhere is still the same. We all are the same people. We all still like stuff. We have emotions. We have so on and so forth. I think here in Germany, people are a lot more themselves to a
Yeah.
certain level. Uh, I think in Malaysia and Australia, people are more materialistic. People care a lot more about what other people think of them. It's a constant competition. Well, I lived in cities. I'm from Johor Bahru. I
Yeah.
lived in KL. I lived
Yeah.
in Sydney. Um, but here in Germany, you get random people walking in the street and just voicing out their opinions, not giving a damn about anyone around them. So I think in a way, it kind of also, it made me feel more okay with being vulnerable, and accepting myself to a certain level. Um, like I think, yeah, you should practice some self-control when you're just voicing yourself out in public. But at the same time, you're not thinking about what other people think of you, and you're just expressing your emotion, which is something that must not be suppressed. Because, like, I've been there, I've done that. Had a champagne bottle pop out of me, all those suppressed emotions.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I learned a lot from just watching this kind of stuff, all this cultural stuff.
Did you feel there were any differences in like the acceptance of all this, accepting the mental well-being side of sports, or not just sports side, but that whole mental well-being? Did you feel there were any differences there across the coaching styles or countries that you've lived and worked and trained in?
Well, honestly, to a certain level, I think I have been unconsciously used to it.
Mm.
And it wasn't until too long ago when I was talking with some American guys and uh, Cyprus athletes, they're speaking about racism and blah 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 so on. Like, I mean, I'm Malaysian. I live in Malaysia, but it's not equal opportunities for everyone. Like,
Yeah.
if I were to buy a property in Malaysia, it's 15% more expensive for me than a Muslim or a native, the
Mm.
East Malaysians.
Yeah.
Like, we have specific universities that are only for the Muslims.
Yeah.
Um, but we kind of accepted it so much so that we didn't even look at it. Every time I fill up a form, I have to fill up what religion I am. Like, are you Malay, Chinese, Indian, or others.
Mhm.
And the way I look at the world is we are all humans, we are all the same, we all deserve equal rights. So I'm coming to that point right now in life, and only being able to look back that I lived through this kind of stuff already
Mm.
without knowing, thinking it's normal and accepting it. So it was not so easy to identify it when I was elsewhere.
Yeah.
I think when I lived in Australia, a huge population of the Indians have moved. You know, they have residence and stuff and jobs in Australia, and I guess a lot of the Australians aren't happy that, you know, a lot of these opportunities are, well, it's not so much the opportunities, but they kind of bring India to
Yeah.
Australia. You know, they behave that way, and
Yeah.
they are them. You know, the Chinese and the Koreans bringing their money all the way into Australia and like messing up the economy. Like it's ridiculously unaffordable to buy a property in Sydney.
Yeah.
So yeah, me being a foreigner then in Australia, I'm looked a bit differently, you know. Well, I lived in a suburb that was kind of like mini Korea. Seriously, everything was Korean there. From the restaurants to, like, to see a white person in the suburb that I lived in was a
Mm.
miracle.
Yeah.
Stratfield. But yeah, it wasn't so bad, I think. Uh, in that context, yeah. So in Malaysia, we have the Bangladeshis, you know, they come in and they do a lot of the labor work. They're cheap labor and stuff. I do not deny that. I used to tell my friends that I feel like a Bangladesh guy in Australia because yeah, that's how I kind of felt. I don't want to deny that feeling. You know? It's how I
Yeah.
felt. But I was okay with it, and I think that was the good part that got me through it all. I've been on training camps. Like my coach was Australian, and I trained with the Australian National High Jumper as well. And we've been to training camps in the Australian National Institute, okay, especially like before Rio. I joined the Australian national teams in Florida for a training camp. They were all, the entire Australian team was there. I was the only Malaysian there. I felt very out of place there. Maybe I could have socialized more. I don't know, but that's how I felt, you know. It was different cultures at that time as well. I didn't know how much to also carry myself or to speak up to other people with confidence and things like this. Yeah, this is what I've dealt with and faced with
Yeah.
throughout my life. So I don't know. It's crazy the way the human culture works now.
Yeah.
Making differences among all of us. It's not fair. It's
No.
not right and it's not fair. And I think as long as people are still chasing after power and greed and wealth, I don't know if there'll ever be an end to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. How was it adjusting to Germany? I mean, not just the change in weather, going from tropical weather to our, as a lot of people, foreigners say in Germany, you have like 2 months where the sun's out, otherwise it's raining or gray.
It was really hard. It was really hard, but I kind of felt like my entire life has prepared me for this. Like living in different parts of the world, traveling in different parts of the world, already having the taste of it. I am dead straight that I mean, I used to work with a sports psychologist in Malaysia before, and I've agreed with her that whenever I moved abroad, I lived there for more than 6 weeks, things start going crazy for me, you know, like things start going downhill and stuff like this. 6 weeks, and I've lived here 10 months right now, and I've already stopped counting basically, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel to an extent every step along the journey has actually prepared me for moving here to Germany. The one thing that made this transition a lot easier was definitely my wife.
Yeah.
I moved to Germany because I got married here.
Yeah.
My wife is from Germany, and this part really made my transition a lot easier compared to if I was by myself. I definitely wouldn't have made it. I would have gone back a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, dealing with the winter was crazy. I mean, I cycle to training every day, like 6 kilometers there, 6 back.
But
Like
you
I was
you
getting all the nonsense reaction.
but you're
I
more
never
German than
had.
I am, you know that?
I, why?
You cycle. I'm here, I've been back, what, now, nearly 3 years? I still don't go cycle. I refuse. That's too German for me. You're more German than I am now,
I
because you ride a
cycle.
bike.
Yeah, well, if I can afford a car, I would buy a car. If I can afford to pay the public transport, I would. But nah, it's too
I
far.
walk.
It's too far.
Yeah.
It's too far to walk to training. Yeah. So yeah, and cycling in minus 17. I mean, my fingers were dry and cracked, and I, I, I always thought that my body, that part of my body seemed to kind of always be perfect, because I never
Yeah.
had pimple issues and stuff like this. But after I moved here, God knows what's happening in my head. The water's too hard. And yeah, the dry skin through the seasons and whatnot. It was truly, truly a different experience for me through the winter, especially that I've been used to sunlight throughout my whole life.
Yes.
Yeah, the gray skies made me depressed. I was taking, vitamin D. I kind of bought this, this imitation light,
Okay.
that it kind of imitates the sunlight, for your eye to kind of improve your mood. It didn't really work, but I mean, I tried. And yeah, I can see why everyone just keeps looking forward to summer here now.
Right.
Yeah. Um, it was my first winter actually, and it was a harsh one. Um, like it only began getting warm and proper like 2-3 weeks ago. So since October until now, it's been cold, and that was hard. That was hard. I think as humans, we have the ability to acclimatize to the climate and stuff. But to an extent, I think I acclimatized a bit, but still, I prefer the warm than the cold.
I'm with you on
But it's
that.
beautiful. But it's beautiful, though. I will not deny the fact of the way the changes of the season. The leaves turn yellow in autumn,
Oh yeah,
and then
I love autumn. Like the colors in autumn and fall are just absolutely beautiful. But I also see it as like, crap, it's gonna get cold now. The winter jacket has to
yeah,
come on.
yeah, exactly. Like
But
walking in the forest in the winter in the snow. It's beautiful.
mm,
It's, I mean, yeah, you dressed well. Stay out there 1 hour is enough, but it's beautiful. And then spring comes. I've never seen how a leaf is formed from a tree before until now. I was wondering what are those balls hanging at the edge of the branches? And my wife goes, "That's the leaves." It's like, oh, really? Okay, wow. And then yeah, you get to watch them. You get to watch the leaves grow day by day. It's beautiful.
yeah,
And when it gets warm and summer comes out again, you feel like you're ready to live. You're alive again. So yeah. I think that's how a life cycle goes as well,
yeah.
for all of us. There are seasons. There are times when we are down and times when we are up.
But we know everything comes to an end and everything has a new beginning. So
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I think the seasons are a great metaphor for our life. Even during the dark times, we know eventually they're gonna come to an end. There will be light at the end of the tunnel. There will be spring.
Mm-hmm.
Things will blossom
Mm-hmm.
again.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Any tips you can give to people that want to live abroad, train abroad, work abroad to make that transition a little easier? I mean, you've been through various countries, you've had various experiences, so I'm guessing you've taken something with you to make that help you adjust a little quicker. Maybe, maybe not.
Uh, I don't know. I think if I could ever only give any tip is, to never stop being yourself, honestly, There are certain traits that make you you, and you thrive through them. The thing about being abroad, it's very easy. You want to learn new stuff. You want to do this, you want to do that. You want to be like this person, you want to be like that person. That's all great and good, but just don't forget your essence. I mean, try it, do it. You will get your answer anyway. But it might save you a whole lot of suffering, or still at the same time, it's an experience gain. So no suffering. It's a process that everyone goes through. And just because I have this experience doesn't mean someone else is gonna have it.
No, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah. The only tip I would say is don't be afraid of trying new things. Actually, then.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the one thing that's helped me always adjust to the different countries I've lived in. I know when, adjusting to Malaysian lifestyle was, I mean, I grew up in Africa, I moved to Dubai, and then I moved to Malaysia. And the one thing I've learned, food plays a huge role in Malaysian culture. So, integrating with Malaysian athlete was like, okay, let's go for some makan food time. And and my version was always like, you order, don't tell me what you order, but just order anything, I'll try it, and then later on you can tell me what I ate.
I think food is a great way to unite people, to come together, for people to come together and sit down. And that's one of the advantages in Malaysia.
Yes.
Wir haben viele leckere Essen.
Das habt ihr, sehr viele. No, but I remember when I went with the bowling team for the first time to Hong Kong, and Timmy Tan won one of the first games, and then we all went out for dinner to celebrate. And they went to this Chinese delicacy restaurant, and I'm like, not sure what to expect. And they ordered, and I was like, what? I'm going to try everything that's put in front of me. So I ate stuff I would probably never eat again, but I tried
it. Yep, okay. Well, you never know until you try, right?
Exactly. And I remember with my sailors, it was the same. So they've always, I mean, durian is the thing you guys love. I don't know how you can eat that fruit, but hey, it's the king of fruit. So the way I bought it with my Malaysian sailors was the girls, they went and bought some durian, and I was like, okay, Karen, you're going to eat this. And I'm like, okay. And there's one of them actually filmed my reaction to when I ate it, and it's not a pretty video.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think in this context, my mom came up with the best metaphor, because when my wife was in Malaysia we were visiting my parents, and she asked a bit about durian, and my mom's metaphor was, it's like eating custard in the toilet.
Yes, that's a really good metaphor.
Yeah. That's a funny one.
Yeah, but yeah, I think food, I mean, in most cultures, food plays a huge role. Maybe not, and so obviously now with Corona, it's not as easy to bond over food, but you find ways of meeting people. I think every local finds it great when you're willing to try their food and experience it. And I remember a lot of the food in Malaysia is eaten with chopsticks and fork and spoon. You don't have a knife. And I remember some of our colleagues going, where do I go and buy a knife? Like, in a normal set, there are no knives. I'm like, I know you have to go to IKEA to get a knife, or a certain shop sometimes have it, but most of it's spoon, fork, and small spoon, big spoon, but no knives.
Yeah. Well, that's the cultural differences, I would say.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. But I still think no, actually not anymore. I used to think it's weird to eat rice with a fork. But I don't use a spoon anymore.
Yeah, I remember how a lot of my colleagues, how a lot of us struggled when we had to start learning how to use chopsticks, because sometimes that's all you got was chopsticks. You're like, hey, let's see.
Yeah,
You either learn
especially when
or
you
you
go to
suffer and
Chinese
starve to
restaurants.
death. So you learn.
Or you could just go Indian and just begin with your hand.
Or that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, and did you notice any differences in the approaches to sports psychology across the countries that you've lived in? Is it accepted in more places, accepted less in places? Or did it depend more on the coach you were with than on the country?
I think it depended a lot on the individual and the coaches. I
Okay.
think sports psychology is not something new in the world of sport. I mean, after I graduated, I did my internship in the sports psychology unit in ISN, where you
Yeah.
formerly worked. And I think there's this huge hoo-ha with the word itself, psychology. Athletes tend to wonder, is there something wrong with me? I'm fine. Just this word psycho, it's just used, or I don't know, people are just afraid of it in general. And they
It
put
has
up
like a stigma.
and
Yeah.
they put up this defense wall in front of them. No, I'm fine, I'm good, I handle everything myself. But I mean, the way one should always look at it is it's just support. It's a support system on the side that you may benefit from, you may not benefit from. Another thing which I would say is you don't know until you try.
Exactly.
But most athletes don't actually get to the point of trying because they think it's rubbish. Not everyone though. And those athletes who actually come to sports psychology is because they have already been through a storm.
Everything.
And okay, I need some help. I need to go somewhere. But the practices around the world, I think, it's kind of the same. It's a lot to do with the person who is teaching it to the athlete, which approaches they use, how they relate it to a person. Like, there are so many doctors out there as well. Like, I may go to a doctor and get a different diagnosis every time, just because the symptoms are the same. It depends on the doctor and the way this works. Like, I recently spoke to a friend, a Mexican friend, and he asked me about this. Have you had experience with sports psychology before? What is all this? Because someone has approached him asking him if he wants, to start stuff. And I said, well, actually, the only way this truly works is by building a trust between the athlete and the sports psychologist. It's that relationship which makes it work. Sure, you can walk away with the tools, like, breathing exercises. You can walk away with that. You can walk away with visualizations. You can, like, that all you do it on your own. That work all comes from you yourself.
Yep.
But there's also a depth to it, where there's a support, someone who you can talk stuff to, and they can help try to navigate stuff with you. But yeah, it's how you build that trust with that person, mainly, I think.
Yeah. No, I definitely think trust is a huge. But again, it's with the coach as well. You need to understand them and get that trust, that work on that, build that relationship. Without that, the tools are great, but even then, you tend to believe certain things work if you know you trust the person. So for some, imagery might work because they think they're. I think it's a great tool and I think it has its place and it's amazing and it helps. But others might go if they don't kind of have that bond with the sports site, they're like, yeah, no, it's not going to work. Why would I visualize stuff? That's just like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Just the same way, you have to believe in yourself for something to work. If you don't believe, you can jump 230, how are you going to expect yourself to jump that?
Exactly.
That's like these things are scientifically proven, you know, the placebo effect and whatnot. It all stems from a belief
Yeah.
that we humans are capable of doing that. And you know, this approach of sports psychology, it needs to also work in a way where it corresponds with your coach. So I've been in a situation before where I was kind of stuck in the middle with two different approaches of how sports should go. A sports psychologist's approach and my coach's approach. Of course, I trust my coach's approach very much.
Yeah.
But it got me stuck in between, you know. It was kind of like a place where I wish I wasn't at. But it was what it was, and it's the experience that I gained up to this day. That's it.
Yeah.
That is it. If I could, you know, also give a tip out there, is that do not find yourself in this situation, this position, because you're only making things harder for yourself. You create confusion for yourself, and yeah, then you become indecisive, and that makes a lot of things difficult.
Yeah.
You waste a lot of energy trying to decide things for yourself as well. So yeah, that's my experience as well with sports psychologists. And I think a lot of there have been, you know, I have read articles before of this kind of situations that athletes have found themselves in, especially when they don't have the coach in the loop, where athletes work only with the psychologist and then go into training and work out another method, but they're listening to the psychologist and not the coach. And that just doesn't work, because a lot of athletes are dependent on their coaches. And I think as a coach, it is also, you know, you have the power to shape and mold your athlete, not only from a coaching perspective, technical perspective, but also from a mental perspective. You know, if I was to be a coach, I'm going to go off by what I've been taught by my father or my coach, etc. So everyone's kind of like teachers in each other's lives. So yeah, if you want something to work like this, you gotta find right-minded people who shares your vision and sees your vision and is going to help you get there and understands you truly well and build that trust together. Then you call that the proper support system.
Yeah.
You
I think
don't just want a support system for the sake of having one, you know. You don't just want to have a sports psychologist because athletes are talking about it out there, you know. Athletes are saying, oh, I work with sports psychologists, I work with this. Oh, okay, I need that too, you know, to up my game and this and that. You don't just do that for the sake of having one. It needs to really correspond, and everyone needs to work together. And I call it, like, to me, it's like clean energy, you know. It's like nothing, like positive, and that's how it works.
Yeah. No, I think it's key that sports psych and the coach, but also like the whole support team needs to work together. I think that was one thing that went with most of the teams in Malaysia, because we all worked at ICE and we all sat together, that we managed to have most of the sports science staff managed to work together. But there were times where you have a coach who doesn't believe in sports psychology or feels that they can do it, they don't need someone. So it's key to get the coach on board and work with the coach, because let's face it, the coach is with you more than a sports psychologist will ever be with you. And so you need to be able to work together. They need to implement things, you know, they are the ones that are going to follow up and need to implement some of the things that we're teaching you. And so if we don't work together, it's, you know, if we work against each other, it's going to cause more harm than good. So, but I remember lots of, not just in Malaysia, athletes would come see me and they don't want me talking to their coach, because they still have that, as you said, it's that it's that negative stigma that that psychology has. There's something wrong with me. I don't want my coach knowing that I'm working with you because he's going to bench me because he thinks something's wrong with me. I'm like, okay, but isn't all you're doing is you're working on finding that extra percentage that's going to give you that extra gain, that 1% that you need. You're working on every aspect because you're realizing that you're struggling, not necessarily struggling, but you just want to up that part of your game. You want to turn over every stone so you know that you've given 100%, given everything that you can to achieve your goals or to go towards whatever you define as success.
Yeah, true, very true. Oh yeah, it all needs to be on board. Everyone needs to be on board. It needs to be with each other. The athlete needs to be themselves.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if the athlete is coming to sport psych to throw out their issues and problem, it's because they have a fear of being themselves in front of their coaches.
Yeah.
Something is wrong in that athlete and coach relationship already, you know.
Yeah.
And it's tricky and it's hard. It's tricky and it's hard. There is no right, there is no wrong, there is no good, there's no good, there's no bad.
No.
Like,
just finding what works for you.
Things like this constantly happens. It happens to a lot of other athletes as well. And anyhow, they are all learning curves eventually, I think. I feel.
Absolutely.
I think. Yeah.
And it's important that you see them as learning curves and not necessarily as roadblocks or hurdles. You know, it's something that's there that you've got to navigate your way around and find the best way to get through it. Instead of seeing it as a frustration that's going to hold you back. It's okay, this is a roadblock. Let me see how I can get through it and move on.
Yeah,
and learn
I
from
think
it.
also times like that could actually make an athlete, you know. It could fuel you up. It could fuel you. It could also be a reason why. Like, you know, you go through so much, go through all the hard times and whatnot. And you go out there and put yourself out there in competition, express yourself, let it all out. Come on.
Yep.
You can't use it this way, you know. This is my way of like positive expression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What are any last final words for our audience? Tips, suggestions, anything from your side before we end this?
Keep rocking. Keep doing what you're doing. And try to put a smile on someone else's face.
Thank you so much. Yeah, exactly. I mean, just smile, help other people smile, spread sunshine and joy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me and talking to me. It was awesome. And
thank you for having me. I finally have had a reason to go live.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad we tried this together. Learned a new experience on going live on Instagram.
All right.
And who knows? All right. Thanks everyone for watching. And in Malaysia, have a wonderful evening and a great weekend. And yeah, see you guys around. Bye.
Thank you for having me, Karen.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Yeah. Ciao.